Yeah, surf the beat cause the bass is bubbling. Gotta get it in before it comes tumbling down. There's only so much time to find this kind of rhyme to express my mind. Cause everything that has ever been made
Sweet Christmas, and hello once again to the CageCast. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me as always is my skinny rich friend,
Mozz.
Hey Mozz, so glad you could be here once again. Tonight's episode 3 of Luke Cage, Who's Gonna Take the Weight? Written by Matt Owens, created by Chio Hodari Coker, directed by Guillermo Navarro. In the aftermath of a chaotic event at a favorite Harlem hangout, Luke heeds the call to action and hits Cottonmouth where he'll feel it most. Okay. So, Mozz, what's your take on this episode? I really liked it, but I want to hear what you have to say.
I enjoyed it too. Every episode, deeper you get in, you sort of start seeing the further reaches of the corruption, and you start getting like a deeper story built around what you're seeing. And I'm really, really digging it. And we get like an awesome action scene in it too, which was really fun.
Oh, our best. I mean, this is you get a 1979 Incredible Hulk series level Hulk out here. It is.
Yes.
It is. For those who don't know, Mozz and I also work on the Gamma Cast over on the 80s Reboot Overdrive. Check it out. You'll love it. Where we're reviewing all the 1970s and 80s Incredible Hulk episodes. And, you know, every so often you get a really good Hulk out. And this was a really good Cage out, I guess we'd call it.
Indeed.
But before we get to that, you know, we're opening up, I'm trying to remember if we're opening up, are we at the funeral home or are we at the police station when we open? Well, anyway, we'll hop ahead to the funeral home. Basically, you know, Luke's there and he ain't got the money to give Pop a proper funeral.
Right.
And then who should come in to save the day?
Cottonmouth.
Cottonmouth, yeah. You know, Cottonmouth is being this, your typical high-ranking mafioso, coming up with, look, you know, this was not how I wanted, and the person who did this got dealt with. Pops was important to me, as he was important to all of us. I'll make sure Pops gets a good funeral. Which is also...
but he does a little bit more than that. He comes in and he's there to atone in a sense, but he also has to throw a jab at Luke Cage, be like, it's a shame you couldn't give him the burial he deserves.
Oh, yeah.
That was a little, unnecessary.
Yeah, especially, just prior to this, Luke is telling the Undertaker that, his wife was Pops's people, and his wife is done too, and it's like just really emphasizing how impotent Luke feels at this moment, and that's for a guy with bulletproof skin. It is a very humbling moment for him.
Yeah.
But like David Banner and the Hulk, those humbling moments don't always last long when you got a Hulk in your back pocket. Essentially, he goes back to the barbershop where Bobby Fischer is, and Bobby Fischer basically says, the banks are going to be coming at this place real quick once everyone knows Pop's dead. But then Bobby kind of turns around on it and says, look, there's ways that people, hang on to Grandma's house even though the paper's never filed, because so long as the bills are being paid, no one really cares.
Right.
And, but of course, Luke is like, well, $80,000 isn't going to fall out of the sky. But then he thinks, oh, wait, I know who has $80,000. And he makes the decision. He's going to, and of course, Bobby Fischer makes the point, stealing from Cottonmouth is what started all this. And he says, okay, so I won't hit Cottonmouth directly, but I'm going to take out all of his men. I'm going to take out his queen, and basically, honestly, to me, it's like he's hitting Cottonmouth real direct.
Yeah,
but we'll give that to artistic license. He starts. He goes to the hospital, meets with what's his name? Was it? He wasn't Wilfredo. Wilfredo was his father, right?
Chico
Meets with Chico to talk to him about stuff, and runs into Misty Knight, who's like, "Gee, you're pretty much
in the middle of everything."
Yeah, and makes the point that only one person worked at both, Harlem Paradise and Pops, and that's you. And of course, he throws back at her, "Yeah, well, if you want, you can interrogate me back at at my apartment. I know, and this time you can. I think he said like this time you can dress properly or something." Basically,
no, he says this time you can bring the handcuffs.
Oh yeah, there we go. And basically calling Misty out, and also importantly enough, cueing to Scarf, her partner, that she was, getting jiggy with it as
having adult relations.
Yes, with this guy who is arguably the prime suspect.
Right.
And then,
but for some reason, Scarf doesn't want to pay attention to that, which was weird in the beginning until you see why.
Well, yeah, we get why, because Scarf is playing some other angles, which, not cool Scarf, but, that's how it goes sometimes. So, basically, Luke speaks to Chico. Chico says, yeah, they have this contingency plan with Crispus Attucks, which is we see, actually I think all the way back in the first episode, we see that scene at Crispus Attucks where he's standing outside of it. And now we're catching up to that scene, because basically what the idea is that, when things go south, the contingency plan, they move all the money, all the cash to Crispus Attucks, which is fortified and is basically a fortress. And so what Luke does is he starts hitting all of Cottonmouth's locales, smashing him up.
Stash houses.
Yeah, smashing up his stash houses, not taking the money because he wants the money to go to the central location. So they do, there's that great scene where they go to the crack house and the crack whore's there, and they're like, what can you say about the guy who did this? And she said, well, he was fine.
And immediately Misty there, she goes, oh, I know who she's talking about.
Well, yeah, let's be honest here. Mike Coulter, not a bad looking feller. And he, and so of course, Cottonmouth does moves as Luke, exactly what Luke wanted him to do, because Luke is playing. And his cousin, she warns him. She goes, "That's not a strategy. That's a reaction." He should have listened to her. Like, haven't you heard of keeping your eggs in one basket? Mm-hmm. And this, I thought, because that is a really important scene that I wanted to talk about, because I really think that is one of the best scenes so far. I mean, we're going to get more that are, but this is really a great defining scene for both Cottonmouth and, or Cornell, sorry, and, Mariah. We don't know if she's ever going to be called Black Mariah or not, but at this point, she's still Mariah and he is still Cornell. And here he is, you really get this idea where you really get this presentation from her that it is very much about the community, that she really does believe she believes her own hype. She believes what she wants to do, which is to, make Harlem better, keep the, ethnic, history of Harlem while raising it out of, basically turning it back into the middle-class African-American neighborhood that it once was many years ago, and building Harlem back to where it was. And, but we get this very interesting interplay where she presents ideas going all the way back to their grandmother, who I think they said was Mom Mabley. You know,
Mom Mabel,
yeah, because they couldn't get the rights to use the name Mom's Mabley. Yeah, Mom Mabel. You know, who apparently was a high class call girl who wound up blackmailing a lot of.
Oh.
Yeah, well, that's what I gathered. Well, she might have been a madam as well. I'm not quite sure. I don't know exactly where it was, but basically, you know, because that's Cornell's point about how she blackmailed these freaky old men to get done what she wanted to, you know. And it comes into, you know, what I think is, like I said, it's a very interesting presentation of the modes of action of the impoverished. You know, people that are often in an oppressed position will often use that oppressed position to exert power in what fashions they can, which is often, you know, living the hustler life and finding what places they can exert their power. Now, what happens invariably in this, and this was a ongoing theme in shows like The Sopranos and many others, and many other shows that have dealt with this idea, is that what happens is that eventually, because of the criminality, some people rise above the criminality while others remain in it. And it becomes this question, well, we don't really have, you know, we have other avenues to power now. Why do you remain here? And of course, the person in the criminal position says, well, you only have your avenues to power because of what I did and what our side of the family did. And this lays out the basic dichotomy.
So, and it sort of, in essence, is asking the question, what is Harlem really? Is it what she wants it to be? And it's sort of like everybody's fighting to get out of, quote unquote, the ghetto, right? Mm-hmm. And it's more than just the material things. It's the way you think about things. So she's fighting to say, no, you know, I'm not going to be in this lower mode of thinking to see that it's just us getting money for ourselves. But I think our way out of the ghetto is to make the ghetto better. Mm-hmm. And sort of the counter he gives her is saying, no, this is what we are. This is what we're fighting for. We are who we are, and we're here to get the money. Yeah. And I think it's an interesting sort of sense of fighting for identity, you know?
Yeah, you know, and I do think it ties nicely back to what we saw with the Kingpin in Daredevil, and this idea of, you know, in Daredevil it is this idea of Kingpin using his criminal connections in his way to improve Hell's Kitchen, and to make it a place where he feels safe. And in the same way, Mariah is using her criminal connections to try and make Harlem a place where she feels safe. But in the end, you know, in the end, everyone is lying to themselves, just as the Kingpin was. You know, both Cottonmouth is lying to himself about exactly how much power he has and how important he is, and Mariah is lying to herself about what she has done to essentially how far down she really has already fallen. That she is not, you know, her hands are not clean in any way, and that she insists she's not. And of course, what Cornell says is, you know, you're just, you know, I think he says, like, you know, you're just the bank, or I think he says you just do the laundry or something like that, you know. It's that idea that she's just there to, you know, serve the purpose she does, and that's, you know, that's what she's there for. Of course, you know, this leads to our very powerful, our great, what I think is probably the best action sequence we've gotten so far this season, where he does go into Crispus Attucks and, you know, and uses that bulletproof skin to great effect.
You know. I had a little bit of a problem with these scenes. Okay, he breaks off the door of the SUV to use as a shield to walk in. Now, I'm assuming it's one of their SUVs, so I'm assuming it has bulletproof windows, but clearly it doesn't. And then once the window is out, every person in that fight, there's like at least 20 dudes with guns, decided to shoot only only at the metal portion of the thing he was holding. Nobody thought to aim at his face. I thought that was a little lazy.
Well, but this is something Captain America does all the time. That you charge with the shield, and people shoot at the shield. And they shoot at the shield because, that's, it's a target. It's a nice big target to shoot at. And trying to shoot through the window at his head, it's a much harder shot to take. And especially if you aren't like, for what it's worth, these guys with these machine guns, they're not out at the gun range, they're not sitting there every, once a week doing their training the way like a professional military person might be doing. They just pull the trigger, make the bullets fly. And so they're pointing it at the biggest object they can, which is the door. So, so it does make sense that they're doing that. And of course, for what it's worth, he's still bulletproof, so what he even needs the door for is debatable. But it makes for a good visual. It makes for a good visual, and that's the...
Although it is interesting, like at the beginning of the episode when you see like the clip of what's going to happen at the end, you see him walking out of Crispus Attucks, and I don't know, was it just me or did it look like he was limping a little bit?
Yeah, I noticed that when I first saw it too, and I think part of that could just be that, he is bulletproof, but he's not, there's this great bit, from The Tick. I don't know if you ever watched the old Tick cartoon where, Arthur is talking about the Tick, and he says, the Tick's power is he's nigh invulnerable. Do you know what the word nigh means? It means not. It means his power is that he's not invulnerable.
Right.
And that's the thing. It's like, yeah, he is real tough. He is real powerful. But, you hit him enough times, as the Chitauri showed us in the Avengers, you hit the Hulk enough times, you can get him to step down a bit. He's going to bounce back.
Which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, because it does show that there are limitations to his powers. And, so then, of course, he's stolen the money, and we get a nice flashback to, Misty and Scarf at the office, looking over the things, and we see that Misty's doing the thing that she did in the first episode where she's visualizing the crime, or was that the second episode? I think it was the second episode where she's visualizing.
Second episode, yeah.
She's visualizing the crime scene, she's seeing all the movements, and she's seeing Luke Cage walk out, and, envisioning how everything played out, which is a pretty cool visual they do for this.
Right, and it always makes me think, like, does she have, like, special powers or something?
Well, I think it's supposed to be that she is just really, really, really good at her job, is the idea. And
Gotcha.
Yeah, it certainly has that. It gives you that visualization that makes you think it's special powers, but really all she's doing is doing visualization. She's, staring at the pictures until her mind puts all the pieces together. It's basically trying to show that she, like a good chess master, and of course chess is a recurring theme in this series. Like a good chess master, she is visualizing all the possible moves that are occurring. Right. And of course that of course is the trigger for this entire episode, is the idea that, Luke is essentially setting up a situation where Cornell is basically making the moves that Luke wants him to. And, of course, Luke gives Bobby Fischer the money, tells him to rebuild the place. And then we get a nice cutaway with Scarf, because, of course, Chico has called Scarf, because Chico is ready to talk. He's going to name names and take everything out. And, how does that end for poor Chico, Mozz?
Nah, not so good. I thought this was really, really interesting. And he's talking to, and why is he taking him out to some, random closed park or whatever, giving him, his last meal, his burger, and then he turns to the camera and starts talking this, deep story about how it's his turn to take on the waiter, do his part. And I'm like, he's gonna die.
Yeah.
But then I think to myself, who's gonna kill him? But there's nobody around, and all of a sudden this dude's taking off his tie and chokes him out. I love that scene because it sort of made it a deeper conspiracy,
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, that when I first saw that, because here's the thing. All I really know about Scarf, Scarf was originally introduced in a Punisher series, in a Marvel Knights Punisher series. And in that, Scarf is actually, he's basically the cop who got tasked with bringing in the Punisher, which is basically the bad detail. It's like, yeah, because none of the cops care about the Punisher. You know, when the cops are like, yeah, he's killing mobsters. We're not gonna put a lot of effort to find the serial killer who kills mobsters. You know, he kills any innocents.
So he's not a good cop.
Well, he's not a bad cop, but he got a bad detail. And the series that I read, you know, I don't know what his character did after that. But that was my first introduction to Scarf, and he wasn't in any way, I think, presented as a corrupt cop. You know, I think there might have been some stuff that comes down, which is just, basically at worst it was that he was a mediocre cop, and maybe that he's a cop that went along to get along, but I don't think they ever had him in that series, you know, being on the take.
Gotcha.
And so when that comes, when they have Scarf make that, you know, face heel turn, that just struck me right out of the blue, and that of course is what the Marvel Cinematic Universe does. Is they know, you know, everyone can, oh, it's not like it was in the books. Say, well, of course it can't be like it was in the books, because then you're going to know what's going to happen. So they've got to do enough where they touch on the books, but then they have to say, okay, well, what could we do to change what happened in the books so that people are watching this and they're going to be surprised. It's going to be, oh, I didn't see that coming. I didn't expect that. And this is a classic example. Having Scarf take out Chico, and it's like, man, I was like, what is going on here? You know, he just takes the tie off and just strangles him with the tie. You know, does a little fireman carry over his neck. It was really, it was brutal and just, you know.
It really was.
But so workmanlike at the same time for Scarf. It's like, you know that was not the first time he did that. You know
and I love the fact that the murder weapon goes right around his neck so no one's any bit the wiser.
Exactly. Puts it right back on. Because he's got to dress nice for his meeting with Cornell. And
Right.
basically tells Cornell, look, here's the thing, and, you know, I took care of that problem. Now let's talk about what your other problem is, because, of course, the one thing that Chico did give up was Luke Cage. And Cornell decides he has to go have a talk with the dishwasher. And, of course, because of the scene where Scarf is clued into the fact that the dishwasher and Misty had a rendezvous, he knows where the dishwasher lives.
Right.
And to his credit, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. To his credit,
Cottonmouth has learned that this fellow is bulletproof, so he brings some heavier ordnance.
Right. Does he know? Because I was wondering the same thing. When he goes off, he goes, I'm going to pay him a visit personally. I'm thinking to myself, oh, then this should be interesting. And then he's on the roof with this ridiculous rocket launcher. And I'm like, whoa, he went full like Wile E. Coyote here.
Well, because up until that point, first off, everyone they know the person who's been hitting his places. You know, it's not like these were people who were unarmed, you know, when he's hitting his places.
Right.
They know he's bulletproof.
Right.
The fact that he is a bulletproof brother is well established at this point. They just didn't know which fellow was bulletproof. Now he knows who's bulletproof.
I see. That makes sense.
And again, you know, Luke didn't kill anybody, and he broke everybody's bones. Some of those guys ain't going to be playing basketball anytime soon, or golf, or hockey, or any other sport. You know, these people are going to be laid up for a while, and may have, you know, he may have some lifelong problems. Let's be honest here. You know, when it rains in Harlem, you're going to remember where Luke Cage hit you. And
who I really feel bad for is the owner, the poor old lady, the owner of the Chinese food restaurant.
Well, yeah.
At first it was just a window, and now like her whole restaurant is ruined. He just got done paying her for, you know, for all the damage he caused.
Well, yeah, and you know, well, that's of course what we're going to pick up next episode. To be honest with you, and you know, it's not good. I mean, that's sort of, but this is the inherent problem of superhumanity. You know, this was actually in the comic books, in the current Kingpin comic book, where basically, you know, he said, you know, where basically the Kingpin in that book is saying, you know, when the superhumans came, it completely shifted it created an arms race. That, you know, we were, you know, that basically we had gotten to this point, which of course is its own myth, but, you know, it's a myth that criminals like to tell themselves, that we'd gotten to that truly organized crime. We've gotten to a place where everyone has their territory, everyone knows what they're supposed to do, we do the crimes, we do the things that maintain order in the neighborhood, but, you know, we serve our function as well. And then when the superhumans came, essentially it created this arms race, because suddenly the superhumans took out the old line guard that had kept order, and then new people came in, and then when the heroes came to take them out, then other metahumans came in, superhumans came in to take those people out, you know, and you started having the supervillains, that basically the supervillains only come in after the superheroes, which is, you know...
Interesting.
Yeah, well, that's the Kingpin's take on it. Truth be told, there were... You can play it in a dozen different ways to discuss exactly what came first, superheroes or supervillains. But of course it's all fiction, so it's whatever helps the story. In this case, the rocket launcher goes through, takes out the dang building. One hopes that Luke was the only tenant, but I don't think he was. Cause basically the whole east side of the building collapses. With Luke and Connie.
I'm hoping he was able to cover the old lady and save her, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, do you want? I'm not going to spoil that for you. Okay, you will. Okay, when you watch the next episode, you'll see exactly what happens. I will say this. Here's what I'll say. Regardless of what happens, it's not a good outcome, because no matter what happens, a business was lost, homes were lost. There was this great piece in, again, in the comic books, in World War Hulk. You know, Amadeus Cho, you know, he always makes it, well, Hulk never killed anyone. The Hulk never kills anyone. And Gabriel Jones, who's running S.H.I.E.L.D., well, he's, you know, he's very high ranking in S.H.I.E.L.D., he looks at him and says, no one died. But do you know how many people lost their homes? Lost their family photos? Lost the cash that was stuffed under their mattress? You know, do you know how much people lost no one died, but you can survive a heck of a lot, you know? And that's the thing. It's like, oh, you know, the heroes never kill anybody, but, you know, first off, the villains do. and second off, you know, even without the loss of life, you lose a lot of property and a lot of things that really people need. And this sets up what is going to be one of the things as we go forward in this series about, you know, what the both cost and benefit of having superhumans is. And especially in these neighborhoods where there are impoverished people, it's a real question of whether or not these superhumans are a good thing. You know, when in Daredevil, where you have people being forced out of their neighborhoods by the Kingpin, you could maybe argue that the Daredevil was doing good. I don't know. Although, truth be told, I remember watching Daredevil and asking, well, is the Daredevil really doing good? Are these people really doing good by when the Kingpin is trying to pay people to move out of their apartments, you know, their little rat nests, and pay them more than the market price and be very fair and decent to help them relocate? And then, no, we're going to fight him no matter what. And then, you know, people wind up dying. You know,
well, I mean, the other side of it is he's pushing the actual residents of the neighborhood out. You know, the neighborhood is the people that are in it. If the people aren't there, it isn't the neighborhood.
Well, yeah, and that of course would be Mariah Dillard's perspective as well.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, and the interesting thing is here is it's interesting that these shows are about heroes in small communities. You know. And I think that's an interesting point. Heroes can work in small communities, but then once you get, you know, on a much larger scale, dealing with a lot larger group of people, it's hard to have superheroes in a fair way.
Yeah.
And I think that points to a lot of things about government and whatnot, and things that can work in smaller groups of people, that the bureaucracy needs to exist for a larger group of people, in a sense. I don't know if I'm getting off track, but
no. Well, that was Tony Stark's point in Civil War. You know, we have to have these rules, man. It's like, and not for nothing, it's like, you know, there's a Hulk, you know, and people are like messed up with having a Hulk running around, and they kind of want someone to be answerable for the Hulk. They kind of want, you know, if you're going to go be hulking everywhere, they want someone to say, hey, I'm the guy in charge of Hulks, and, you know, the Hulk is okay, and if the Hulk does cause problems, we're going to fix it, and, you know, we're only going to Hulk when we're allowed to Hulk, you know.
Right.
You know, but then the counter argument from Captain America and that is like, yeah, but you do know that they're going to have us hulking at places we don't want to hulk. You know that the first thing they're going to do with that Hulk is they're going to drop him in the middle of Iraq.
Right.
You know, it's like, okay, ISIS have a Hulk, and it's like, on some level you're like, oh, hey, great, ISIS, you know, send the Hulk to defeat ISIS, but there's a lot of people in between. It's the same problem with dropping a bomb on ISIS, you know, is that you can't bomb the heck out of ISIS because, as certain people would like to do, because there's actually a lot of people that are just living there as well. And finding that balance is the difficult. That's why politics is hard.
Yeah.
and that is why we have these very tortured, anguished elections where no one's happy with the outcome. Because there is no actual good outcome for when you have to start making decisions. You know, I mean, what else? You know what I'm going to say? Apollo was right. In Who Mourns Adonis from Star Trek in the 1960s, and Adonis and Apollo said, "You will sit and I will take care of you, and you will be goat herders, and you will be at peace, and you will just worship me, and all will be well." And you know what? He was right. We should have stuck with that model. Life would have been much easier, but of course no one wants to do that. We want to be humans and say we are the boss of everything, and then we got to deal with our own problems.
Well,
if we're not going to have Apollo or Thor or Odin solve our problems for us, we got to solve it ourselves. And we're going to make mistakes, but we try to do our best. Okay. I think that's enough for this week. Mozz, what do you think?
Indeed.
Okay, Mozz, if anyone would like to reach out to you, talk to you, hear other things you do, how can they reach out to you, Mozz?
You can find me on Facebook at Mozz Manzoor. It's MozzManzoor. Or you can email me at mozzmanzoor@gmail.com.
Very good. And look for the 2 O's in the middle for quality. And the 2 Z's in the middle, too. Because the kids love Z's.
They do indeed.
And, of course, you can listen to both me and Mozz on the GammaCast on the 80s Reboot Overdrive. You can listen to me on Super Connectivity and the all-new Marvel Roundup. And, because every so often I actually talk about DC stuff over at World's Finest, where I do the Marvelous Review, where I review one DC book a week. Often Superman, and then I also do Podcast of Tomorrow, or is it Legend? Yeah, Podcast of Tomorrow, which is where we review with Zachary Hare the current Legends of Tomorrow show. And you can write to me in that old-fashioned email way at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. And follow me on Twitter as I live tweet various television shows and programs, including Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., The Incredible Hulk, 7 o'clock on Saturdays when I'm not doing a podcast for The Incredible Hulk, and Legends of Tomorrow, and occasionally Gotham, and who knows what I'm going to live tweet next. So follow me at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. Sweet Christmas, ladies and gentlemen. That has been one more CageCast. Please jump into the cage with us again. Good night.
Good night.